See, initially there was lots of myths and misconceptions. There was a challenge that this is a ladies program and why should men folk participate? It's a combination of technology, a combination of a livelihood and the knowledge piece which will empower a woman.
So today we have with us Ms. Pant, Head CSR and Sustainability for L&T Financial Services. Ms. Pant comes from a rich experience of working 16 plus years in the CSR and sustainability sector across different portfolios. Under her leadership, L&T Financial Services has been able to conceptualize the Digital Sakhi program aimed at financial literacy and entrepreneurship training in rural women. Ms. Pant, it's a pleasure to have you here with us today.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. So just to begin with, we want to understand why L&T Financial Services has decided specifically to focus on rural skill development in particular, and within that demographic, especially women.
Yeah, so Yamini, if you see our portfolio, largely we are a lending company. We are an NBFC primarily into lending company, and our focus has been rural retailization. So our large part of our business is in the rural areas. It's natural for us, to then look at CSR programs that are in the rural areas. Very few companies are actually doing in the rural areas. So we thought, why not look at, capitalizing our business footprint since we have presence and start working in those areas. Then coming to women, that's very clear. If you see largely Indian society is a highly patriarchal society, and there's hardly any control of assets with women. If you see land, capital, even the digital assets. When we did a baseline and assessment survey in some of the rural geographies we intended to work, we saw that the smartphone availability was only with the menfolk, either the husband or the brother, or the son, but the wife or the daughter or the sister, she never had it. Yeah. So the idea was to how to empower a woman, because when she has a digital asset, it's very empowering for her. And not only this asset piece, we also are looking at providing her with the livelihood opportunity and with the knowledge piece. So it's a combination of technology, a combination of a livelihood and the knowledge piece, which will empower a woman, and therefore she will take the right decisions within the family household and also at the larger community level. And if if woman is convinced, then she can convince the family and communities and the larger ecosystem. So that's the reason why we decided to choose women as our change agents.
Definitely, I think that's a very important point, that the kind of influence that a woman has in her family is quite powerful, and it's important to kind of leverage that influence that she has. So traditionally, when we talk about skilling, we see institutes that focus on technical skilling, vocational training, but why have you particularly decided to go down the route of financial literacy, especially again for women?
So Yamini, like I mentioned, we have tried to leverage our business footprint in terms of reaching the rural areas. Similarly, we have tried to leverage our business expertise. So being a financial service, is very natural for us to understand financial inclusion and financial literacy. We developed in-house our module, taking inputs from our learning and development team, from our microloans team. We also took inputs from some external stakeholders who have been working on this particular thematic area. And of course, we got our National Payment Corporation of India on board. They are the major owners of digital modes of financial literacy that they are promoting on digital payments. So combining both external and internal inputs, we developed a module, and we wanted to utilize that piece, particularly financial literacy, to kind of reach out to rural areas. Also, Yamini, to be frank, during demonetization phase, we saw our business getting impacted. In the rural areas, people had a lot of cash crunch. Then we thought, why not we look at and Government of India has been promoting Digital India. So our objective was, why not align to that and look at promoting digital financial literacy to the larger ecosystem. And what better than a rural woman to be used as a change agent. So that's the reason we kind of leveraged on our expertise and decided to focus on financial literacy, specifically digital financial literacy, as the core area of our work.
Definitely. Thank you for sharing that. So now moving into just talking about the program itself, the Digital Sakhi program. So how does the program function, and how exactly is it improving the livelihood of these rural women?
Yeah. So Yamini, Digital Sakhi program has 3 legs to it. Like I mentioned, primary objective is digital financial literacy for the rural and peri-urban communities.
Yeah.
We reach out to the villages and areas where you have internet connectivity. So it runs on basic infrastructure, which is your internet connectivity has to be there. Because there's lots of, in our module, there's a lot of focus on digital modes of payment. And when you have to do practical demonstration, you need to have net connectivity.
Yeah.
So that is one thing. Secondly, like I mentioned, this digital Sakhi, when she's equipped with a tablet. So we have provided all our digital Sakhis, 650 digital Sakhis we're running in 5 states. All of them have been given these tablets with a SIM card. And within that, there's a module that we have developed, which I spoke about. It is fitted into that. And all the modules are running in vernacular language. So all 5 states we have in Marathi, Hindi, Bengali, Odia, Tamil.
Okay.
So it's running there. So one Sakhi, her target is to reach to about 1,000 people, and we pay her an honorarium. If she reaches out to more number of people, she gets the performance incentive. So there's a clear-cut alignment. So the idea is to kind of reach out to maximum numbers. There has to be some incentive for the digital Sakhi also. And in lieu, she gets honorarium, like I mentioned, and an incentive. So one is on the digital Sakhi piece. She also conducts Digi Dhan camps, which is again aligned to the Government of India's mission of spreading digital financial literacy to the rural areas. Now, Digi Dhan camps, what is the model is the Sakhi, along with the bank and with our implementing partners, which are NGO partners, we have a gathering of about 100 to 300 people. And then she talks about basics of financial literacy as well as digital modes of payment. Along with that, she's also covering various entitlement schemes. And therefore, I'm coming to the second leg of the program, which is covering entitlement schemes and selling that to the community members. So as you know, Yamini, government and state governments have various yojnas. Like right now we also heard PM addressing the Garib Kalyan Yojna, Kisan Yojna. All these yojnas people are not really knowing about it. Then how it is important to kind of tell them that these are the schemes and you take benefit of it. And that's the piece that Sakhi is also doing. And these are all the schemes where, you have direct benefit transfer. You have cash transfer coming into account. So the program model is not only kind of looking at whatever accounts are there with the community, they start getting utilized because your money is there. And through digital modes of payment, you're starting to utilize those bank accounts and therefore that money. But also looking at knowing about various entitlement benefits. The third leg of the program is also about upskilling women entrepreneurs. Now, as you know, as an organization, we provide access to credit through our microloans business. However, just access to credit is not sufficient. You need to have financial literacy also to it. And to have both the things, you need to kind of do trainings with women entrepreneurs. But how will women entrepreneurs' business increase? When you're looking her credit-taking ability to increase, you need to focus on imparting her with technical training. And therefore, we have upskilling of women entrepreneurs into agri and agri-allied trades. These trades differ. You have goatry, tailoring, you have cattle dairy piece as a core trade through which upskilling happens, followed by enterprise development programs. So we also tell these women entrepreneurs, I would say these are really nano entrepreneurs, self-employed kind of a category. And they are trained on enterprise development program, which is like how to make a balance statement, how to increase your footprint, how to sell your business. These are some things that women entrepreneurs don't know. Also, along with that, we provide them with market linkages, both upward and backward. So that's where we utilize our implementing partners' strengths and kind of, do upskilling and EDP program for women entrepreneurs. Now, Digital Sakhi, what she does is she ensures that as the business of the women entrepreneurs is expanding, they are using digital modes of payment to do the transaction. So that's where the linkage comes.
Okay, I think it's wonderful that the organization is placing so much importance on hand-holding throughout the process, right from, sorting the credit all the way till helping sure they have the right entrepreneurial skills to actually make a living and livelihood for themselves. So thank you for that, ma'am. Now, moving on, looking at the initiative as a whole, how has L&T Financial Services partnered with different organizations, both private and public, to widen its CSR reach?
Yeah. So, Yamini, we are a small team and we are not directly implementing. We have our NGO partners who do it for us. Rather, I would say they are the ones who are giving us a lot of community feedback and grassroots level feedback. And that's the reason why Digital Sakhi is evolving continuously. We do these various stakeholder workshops. So they are implemented, entire Digital Sakhi program is being implemented by them. Okay. We also work along with Panchayati Raj institutions. So a lot of local government support is something that we're looking at. Each time there's a Digital Sakhi program that initiates. We kind of inform our various panchayats and also take their feedback on a regular basis at how the program is going. See, initially, there was lots of myths and misconceptions. There was a challenge that this is a ladies program and, why should men folk participate? But it is because of our partnership with the local panchayat level through our NGO partners and by us also, that there was a lot of buy-in of the men folk community. So partnership with the local government, partnership with our NGO partners, and of course, main our NPCI knowledge partner. I think that's been a fantastic move. I mean, in terms of, because they have given us a lot of knowledge on not only in terms of development of module on digital financial literacy, but they also conduct training across all our projects. So we have their presence, all the trainers, and nowadays we are doing a lot of virtual training. But in the last year, we had a lot of training programs across remote areas also, remote areas like Dhar, Badwani of MP, or Baud or Balangir of Odisha. So all the trainers of NPCI, they traveled, they conducted sessions, because digital modes of payment is something which is continuously evolving. So also talking about myths and misconceptions, the do's and don'ts of it. There's a lot of, fraudulent activities also go on. So it's important to tell communities what to do, what to not to do. These are certainly critical things, and NPCI has been a fantastic partner. And of course, we have certain agencies that have been supporting our impact assessment programs and do online service. So those are other partners that we kind of deal with. So more or less, we kind of look at, how both government at the local level, at the state level, because we do launch programs, we do stakeholder workshops, we invite the district collectors, we invite at the block level the officers. At each time there's a partnership like that happening at a regular interval.
Okay, that's great. So now talking about the current climate that we're in the middle of a global pandemic, it's obviously bound to impact different businesses, foundations. So we want to understand how L&T Financial Services what steps that you guys are taking, especially for the sustainabilities of the digital Sakhis during this period.
Now, with regards to sustainability of digital Sakhi from a long-term perspective, what we have decided after minimum 3 years of intervention we do, sometimes even more. So it's been 4 years for Maharashtra, which is the oldest one, and similarly for other projects which is happening. What we have decided to do is, out of these Sakhis, at least 30% we are looking at becoming entrepreneurs. And they'll be running a digital Sakhi Seva Kendra, where a part of seed capital will be provided by L&T Financial Services CSR grant, and part she will pay, so that there's greater ownership. Now, Digital Sakhi Seva Kendra is, let's say, a petty shop which has a Wi-Fi, which has Aadhaar. So she has a biometric device, so she can do Aadhaar-enabled payment services. There's a QR code there. There's a printer. There's a computer. There is a POS machine given. So it's complete package and net connectivity. This is a complete package where if a community comes and they want to make a payment, she can start charging community. And it's important at some time that she starts charging community for her own sustainability. So that one piece is for digital payment fee. On the entitlement piece also, when she is doing a lot of legwork around these yojnas and all, getting the paper of those from the government, filling it up on behalf of beneficiary, and then kind of telling them what is the benefit which is getting out of it, till the time money is transferred into their beneficiary's account, whether farmer or laborer, she will be charging a small amount for that also. So right now it is in that stage in Maharashtra that we will be testing out how it comes, because community will be ultimately paying for it. But our assumption is that as long as the community understands that there is an importance to it and Digital Sakhi has to sustain it, they will pay for it. It will, anything which is free, there's not much seriousness to it. And in this case, Digital Sakhi is a lady whom they already know. She is much empowered lady. She knows about various aspects on digital financial literacy. We give a lot of exposure to Digital Sakhi. So our Digital Sakhis have actually traveled to various events and conferences in Delhi, and spoken in Chennai, they've spoken. So she's like a role model in the village. So people really look up to her. So our assumption is they would start paying for it. And that's how the entire Digital Sakhi Seva Kendra would be a self-sustainable model. We would want to increase the percentage gradually. But as of now, we are looking at above at least 30% of our Digital Sakhis become entrepreneur gradually.
I think it's great. It sounds like a very well thought out plan, especially in light of how the current situation is. Now, I just want to discuss some of the challenges that L&T Financial Services would have faced when you were breaking into these communities. I mean, we already spoke about the gender discrimination and the patriarchal stereotypes that exist. But aside from that, were there any other challenges that you faced when you were breaking into these communities? Yeah,
so along with this gender piece, we've also, net connectivity is not there still in a lot of villages. So when we get, we decide geographies basis our customer presence. And when we do that, along with that, we also do infrastructure feasibility assessment. So our piece is very clear. You need to have net connectivity. Whenever there's a fluctuating net connectivity, you cannot show the practical demonstration. While it is there in the module, it is there in the tablet of a Sakhi. But if she has to, if the person whom she's teaching, beneficiary has to use it, the fluctuation in the net connectivity is a challenge. And therefore, we have been working with NPCI and also looking at how to use feature phone-based modes of payment, so USSD, how to kind of make that popular. Also, like I mentioned, digital assets, while Sakhi has it and our women entrepreneurs, because now they're earning out of it, they're also looking at buying smartphones. Typically, it is still with the men folk. So once smartphone is there with the women, then they can start using, these keys. Till then, if it is feature phone or simple phone, they will have to rely on USSD keys. So that's one piece again. That is a challenge piece. And besides that, I would say that with regards to women entrepreneurs, the idea is that how to kind of scale up that. We are looking at, because, as a corporate, we can do a lot of proof of concept. So we're doing in 5 states. We possibly, given not this year, maybe next year or, year next, we can scale up in 1 or 2 more states. But how can we look at potential collaborations, like-minded organizations, tech-based organizations, who can kind of leverage it and kind of take it up in the other geographies. Even the government, various livelihood missions are there. These Sakhis can become potential banking correspondents because they understand everything on financial literacy.
Yeah.
So our main thing is how to kind of make it big. Right now our reach is about 550,000 people through 650 Sakhis and 5,500 women entrepreneurs. But how can we, let's say, have 10 lakh Sakhis, like that? So it can only happen when a lot of corporations join hands, government join hands, and then there's a multi-sectoral partnership, and then we kind of scale up. So while we have solution in terms of sustainability and we have good proof of concepts running in various states, but to scale it up, I think that's one thing we kind of see it as a potential challenge. Yeah.
Yeah, I think definitely a lot of organizations are also face scaling up as a challenge, and I think it would be good for others to hear what L&T in particular has a plan for and what they're going to focus on. Just to end with our last question. So this is just about your own experience. You have over 16 years of experience working in the social sector. And so what do you think is the next challenge that the skilling sector is facing going forward?
Yeah, so skill development is a piece that I've worked very closely both with my Dr. Reddy's Association and in my Tata previous association and of course Digital Sakhi also. And typically, if you see, sourcing, I feel sourcing the right candidates is the key challenge. I've always observed that, we cannot look at, even in Digital Sakhi, if there's a dropout happening, that means that Sakhi came just for a time pass or that youth is coming only for a time pass. You need to see to it that the person who's joining the course should have a livelihood need. If you're taking just to give the numbers, typically since I've seen this space very closely, if you are targeting a certain number to be reached for training and you are not sourcing correctly, you will have a dropout. वो certificate ले लेगा बंदा बंदी and then they will drop out. So I think sourcing the right people, they're understanding the needs of the community, and then kind of taking up the right kind of candidates for each of the trade, whether it is BFSI trade or the hospitality or retail. Understand the candidates well, look at the needs, and then kind of source them. So that's a major challenge. Second piece I feel is also with regards to faculty, good quality faculty. I think that's something I've seen very closely, that, the content, while the training content is extremely rich, but there's an art of teaching. It's not just about subject knowledge. Subject knowledge might be excellent with the faculty, but the way you communicate with the students, you have to be into their shoes to understand, how they will view the subject. So I think that's again something which, quality trainers or faculty, good quality faculty is again, I feel is a challenge. Third, of course, like I've been, talking to various other skill development agencies who are into implementing it, is also retention. We can get a lot of, people placed. You can show the placement piece across, but how many students are you retaining? Maybe you should track it for some companies track it for 6 months, some for a year. But are those people really going to stay back in the jobs that you provided? Are they going to go back to the rural areas? Those are challenges, I think, still after so many years that the agencies face. Yeah. How can we kind of look at supporting those people who have trained, let's say from rural areas to urban areas, that they don't go back to their rural areas. they should stick around in the trades that they have received training on. Yeah. So I think that's other piece. And lastly, fourth also is, I feel there's a lot of focus should be on entrepreneurship. That's we're talking about Atmanirbhar Bharat, the Pradhan Mantri is saying Atmanirbhar Bharat. Why not look at, having more number of programs around developing these micro entrepreneurs and then possibly look at scaling up. There's a great campaign government started, Startup India, Stand Up India. Again, looking at communities coming from Dalit and Adivasis, promoting them as entrepreneurs. I think that's something which we should definitely look at from a skill development angle also. So it's employability and entrepreneurship angle, because then it is sustainable. Employability, yeah, fine. They'll get into a regular job, so BFSI will be there. All those aspects are there. But making them an entrepreneur is something which is a very transformational. And for currently, I think the current need demands it. The kind of situation, political situation, all those situations, they demand that we should have more number of entrepreneurs and encourage them.
I think that was a very insightful response. You've covered changes that right from the organizational level all the way to the policy making level. There are, much needed changes that need to come in the industry. So thank you for that. This brings us to the end of our interview. Ms. Pant, thank you for being a part of this interview. It was an absolute pleasure to have you here. And
thank you so much, Yamini.